Well, hello there. It's Friday, July 7th, 2023. Why did I look down at my clock to make sure that that was the date? I don't know why I just did that. Well, you're here, and you're here for a live draw, and this is something that I do every Friday, uh, weather permitting. doesn't The weather doesn't change inside my apartment, but sometimes there are events that don't permit me time. But typically this is where you'll find me on Friday nights for 1 hour. I'm working on an animated cartoon, and I already got people saying hello to Rachel. Hey there. As you've just experienced, this is an interactive live stream. So if you're watching with me live, I do encourage you to participate. And this is an hour where typically I will draw for a period of time. I'm not going to lie to you. I am incredibly tired today. But I'm going to try to get some drawing happening anyway. But if you do decide to watch with me live, you can also write to me and ask me questions and interact. And I think that makes everything just a little bit more fun as far as doing a live video is concerned. Otherwise, I am just prattling on for myself. And goodness knows I don't need to do that. So today kind of was a little bit of a surprise special day because I premiered a video, a very short video. It's a 30-second video, kind of like a commercial. But I premiered a video, and I didn't really announce that this was going to happen. I just sort of did it. And that's actually how the video came to be. I really didn't plan for it too long in advance. I quite literally earlier this week said, I'm going to do this. And so I sat down and made this thing. And then I was like, Friday is a good day to release it. It's 7/7. I like that number scenario. So anyway, hello to Kent. Hello there. The video I'm referring to it's available right now on YouTube and on Facebook. It's a promotional announcing to the world video that my cartoon is happening. I felt like I needed to do some kind of official something, a video that people could look towards that would say, hey, just so you know, this is a project that is happening. It's in production. It's not technically a trailer. It's kind of like a teaser, but really it's more of a production announcement video. I don't know when the cartoon will be done, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, while I am trying to make progress, I'm also not pressuring myself to make specific amounts of progress by a specific date. And the reason I'm not doing that is because I want to enjoy the ride. This is a very special cartoon for me. It means a lot. I truly want it to come out fantastic and something that I can be proud of. And I've determined that the way to make that happen is by not making myself dislike the process. And that doesn't mean I'm, not working on it. I'm definitely working on it on an almost daily basis. So that brings me to this live draw. And let me also see we got Rachel asking, where are we looking for it at? If you head to my YouTube channel, it's the first, like if you literally find my channel on YouTube, the first video that pops up is the one I'm talking about. It'll pop up automatically. If you don't know, if you do go there and you're like, I still don't see where it is, you can scroll down a bit and I have categories, and it'll be in the cartoons category. Hello there, TJ. Hello. Rachel says, enjoy it. TJ says, everything you do is gold. Love your work. Well, that's certainly not true, but I will graciously accept the compliment. So thank you for that, TJ. But that brings me to this live draw. So one of the things that'll get me to my goal faster is if I have patrons, and the more patrons I have, on Patreon, which is what this is talking about below. Eventually, if I collect enough people who are patrons, the idea is that will be like a paycheck for me, and I can stop doing the odd jobs that I am currently doing throughout the day to make ends meet. So yes, I'm a full-time artist, and yes, I also am doing some jobs on the side, full-time, I guess as well. But the way for me to be working on this cartoon full-time would be to not have to do those other jobs. And if you'd like to see me working on this cartoon all the time, every day, a great way to make that happen would be to become one of my patrons, and I would gladly accept that. And thank you in advance. So you can be one of those people for as little as, I guess, $1. There's different tiers, but if you feel like you just want to be in on the action and part of it, that's the way to do it. And the patrons that I have typically get notified first. Not always. There's some things that I put out just to the public right away, but typically if I have something that's kind of a big deal, like the video that I mentioned earlier, I made the video available to them, like, I don't know, almost 24 hours in advance. And that's basically like my way of thanking people for supporting me, is giving them early access to things. Anyway, enough of that business. If you have a project that you're working on, I would encourage you to take that project out at this time and work along with me. I'm about to start drawing, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about the scene I'm working on tonight, because I had a very cool thing happen earlier this week. The scene that I was working on, which was a pretty elaborate 5-second sequence. Yes, I said 5 seconds. It's 5 seconds. But it's a lot longer for me. 5 seconds in animation equals hours more work on the back end. That sequence I completed earlier this week and just barely started my next scene. And in this scene, I've got Spike is standing next to New Guy. This here is Spike, and this here is New Guy. And in this sequence, New Guy has just completed saying some stuff, and he's looking over to Spike for approval, or to get a reaction from him. And Spike is kind of amused, but doesn't really get into the like emotional side of things. And so he makes it a point to say, well, don't get all emotional. Okay, so that's the dialogue that I'm going to be working on tonight, is Spike saying, well, don't get all emotional. And then he proceeds. I don't know if this is going to work. This is a lot of these things that I'm trying to do. As I'm doing them, I'm like, maybe this will work. I don't know. Sometimes it does. Sometimes I have to go in and fix things. But the thing I'm going to have Spike do in this sequence is take his fist and do one of these little like chin, not like he's not full on punching him, right? But he's going to do like a little bit of a punch, a light punch to New Guy, as he's saying, don't get all emotional. Okay. So I currently have that happening right here. I don't know if that's going to work the way I want it to, if it's going to appear like it's too much of an actual punch, but I also want it to be, I don't want it to be a full-on punch, but I want it to be an action that does make New Guy kind of like, what just happened here? So it's not like he's trying to knock him out, but he does catch him off guard. Somewhere in between mean and like older brother, picking on younger sibling, kind of like that. Anyway, Midge is here. Hey, Midge is here. Is that the text you were animating? Is that? Oh, no. What I was animating last time I was talking with you, Midge, was from the previous sequence. And that sequence was new guy says, I can hardly believe it myself. That was what I was working on the last time I was talking with you. That's done. I finished that. And that was really challenging because it's a lot of words said in a 1 second interval. It's a 5 second sequence, but second number 5, the last second, new guy says, I can hardly believe it myself. Like really quick like that. And when you have a lot of words strung together like that, you have to be really specific about which syllables you pick up on and actually make the mouth form those words. Because, for example, I can in this example, I can didn't come out as I can. It was I can. So if you watch my mouth, I can. That's not like, that doesn't look like two separate words. It looks like a word called I can, which isn't a word. But that's where things get tricky with dialogue, is trying to figure out how fast the actor said the words, and then where do you separate? Because if you separate every single word out, the problem with doing that, if you do too much of it, is it will look like I'm talking like this if you separate everything out, and that's very weird to watch. So you don't really want to do that in animation, because it looks strange. People don't talk that way. People talk with a slur or something like that. Hey, Kristen. TJ says, you want to nudge him on the chin, right? Yeah, it's supposed to be a nudge, but it's a nudge, but I do still want a new guy to like kind of have like a comical reaction a little bit, just so that when he's done with it, he can kind of come back and be like, oh, maybe like I have him like rub his jaw a little bit. Because I feel like part of what makes all this stuff work and makes it interesting is if everybody has something to do. Sometimes people will just stand and not do anything, but I think it's interesting if the characters are all kind of either reacting to each other or taking the lead and doing some kind of action. Yes, and thanks so much for the English lesson. Yeah, I wasn't trying to turn this into an English lesson, but that's, I guess, what happened. Is this on the ones, Chilimbwe, the dialogue? That's an excellent question, Chilimbwe. Yes. The short answer is yes, but the longer answer is sometimes. The scene that I just completed where he said, I can hardly believe it myself, I did not animate entirely on the ones, and that's a term that means was there a brand new drawing every frame. If you imagine a frame or a second of film, 1 second in film is typically 24 frames, 30 if you're doing live action film, or a different frame rate, I guess. But typically it's 24 frames per second, right? So in theory, if you were animating on the ones, 1 second of animation would be 24 completely different images. And I'm not doing that because that's a psychotic thing to attempt to do. And I actually think animating on the ones is relatively distracting to watch. I've seen it done before, and I think it can be done well, but I think most of the time, if you're consistently doing one drawing every frame all the way through, everything has a very bizarre fluidity to it that looks so real that it's like, I don't know, like trippy real. It doesn't seem real. It seems ultra real or something like that. So what I like to do is base it on whatever the scene calls for, and that particular scene, parts of that sentence required that I animate on the ones, and part of it was on the twos. And on the twos is typically what television animation is based on. You're looking at 12 frames per second instead of 24. In reality, if you were to look at my timeline, it's not actually 12 frames a second. It's like sometimes it's 12, but and interspersed in there, there's a few on the ones, and then we're back to the 2 frames a second, and then sometimes we hold for 4 to 5 frames if the character is holding on something. So it's not like a consistent. The number's never 100% consistent that way. You just kind of have, at least the way I've figured it out for me. You just kind of have to figure out what the scene is calling for and base it off of that. Am I getting okay? I'm getting messages. I'm getting messages on my phone. Let me just let someone know that I'm live streaming. Currently live streaming. See, some people don't know that I'm doing this, and then they send me texts, and then I have to tell them not right now. My fault. No, you're fine, Midge. The uncanny valley of animation. Yeah, that's how I kind of feel about it. There was an amazing animator, the guy that was behind much of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. His name was Richard Williams, and we lost him a few years ago. He passed away. But Richard Williams was working on a project as well where he was animating on the ones, called The Thief and the Cobbler, and I believe there is some sort of effort right now being done to restore that or something like that. But it's an incredibly ambitious piece. If you ever get interested in it, you can look up The Thief and the Cobbler and find there's a team of people that are working to try to complete the film, I think is what they're doing. It's insane. But if you look at it, it's like everything feels like it's just moving all the time. And it's impressive. I don't particularly like it for my work, but I think it's a cool thing to look at. Chilimboy says, could you do the mouth on the ones and the actions on the twos? I'm not sure I get. Are you saying like the body is moving on the twos, but the mouth is moving on the ones? You can do that if that's what you're asking me. You can. That just, it takes a little bit of finagling, because what you're doing then is every other frame you're copying the body of the previous image over and duplicating that for a second frame, and then but the mouth is continually moving. You can do that. I just added drawings or took away drawings until I felt like it matched up properly. And what's funny is I thought I had it like totally done. I want to say it was like Tuesday. I thought I had it completely done. And then Tuesday night, we'll just call it Tuesday night. It might have been Wednesday. But Tuesday night, I looked at it and I was like, something is just like a hair off. And I didn't know what it was causing it. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take every frame from this one sentence, and I'm going to grab all the frames and shift them back in my timeline all by one frame. So everything got moved back by one frame. And lo and behold, if it didn't just snap it into place, it was an amazing little eureka moment. I thought I already had it done, and then I was like, now it's done. And that was a very cool moment. I'm very much figuring this out as I go. I did study animation somewhat in school, but for years I didn't pursue animating. I was pursuing illustration and making comic books, and so I'm sort of just now returning back to this art form. But I've studied it, and the way that I like analyze and watch cartoons in my free time, I'm constantly thinking about these things, even if I'm not constantly doing these things. So now it's time for me to put the pencil to the paper and prove that I actually know what I'm talking about, and that's what this is all about. That's what this cartoon is all about, is pushing myself to actually do the things that I claim to understand about the art form, and now I'm proving to myself that I can actually pull it off. So that's what this is. That's not the only reason I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I want to see these characters tell a story. But Chilimboy says, yes, it can be a pain in the butt. Yeah. Yeah, it can be. I tried to treat the action as if it was I tried to treat the action based on the words. So if he's saying something and I want him to do some kind of like emphasis to make the words punch a little more, like I try to base the bodily actions on that. I don't try to say, well, I need to have him constantly moving in some way, otherwise it's boring to look at. I don't like doing that. I I've been watching cartoons. I grew up in the '90s recently, and something I've noticed is there seems to be this I don't know, I don't want to call it an obsession, but some kind of a belief system from the people that were making them that the characters had to be moving all the time. And if they weren't moving all the time, then it wasn't going to be worth looking at. And unfortunately, what that results in is a lot of unnecessary movements. You get characters on the screen who are just constantly like going like this or going like this while they're talking, and I guess it's meant to tell the audience that a lot is happening, but what they're doing is repeating animation or looping animation or making a lot of unnecessary animation. And I find if it isn't directly supported by the speech, if they're just moving around aimlessly, then it doesn't do anything but make your eyes sort of like not sure what to think. Your eyes are kind of darting around going like, I don't understand why I'm looking at this. Unless the character has a purpose in their movements, I don't think you should be moving them all that much. So I try to go into every scene now with a direct, like a almost like a ballet in my head. Like in this scene, we're going to have the character doing this action and doing this action, and it's very deliberate. And then I'm trying to marry the speech to that. So that's how I do things. It's not based on any theory that I read about. It's more based off of what I watch and as an audience member, how I feel when I'm seeing certain things. And I don't want to repeat those actions if I don't think that they're very, you know, um, useful to the storytelling. So there you go. That's a lot of that. Look at Akira. Look at Akira. Chill says yes. Akira is. I mean, a lot of anime is the detail is in the backgrounds. The details are in the ship designs, the action sequences. Those are very, very impressive. And I've noticed in a lot of anime, what they'll do is they'll kind of reserve their energy for the action sequences. And then when you have any exposition or character development scenes, those end up being a lot quieter, and the characters will just sort of be stationary and just have their mouth flapping. And I don't want to do that either. That to me is like the complete extreme in the other direction. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I just particularly don't find it super interesting to look at. So that's my 2 cents. Midge says, which is weird. In stage productions, film, dance, burlesque, etc., movement is always intentional, not just moving to move. Right. And in all of the things you just listed, Midge, those are human beings moving, and I think in those situations, people just move, and they have maybe an idea of where they want to move. But when you're drawing things out and it's a lot of dialogue, I could see why people get stuck, and they think like, well, what are we going to have this character doing? They're just talking. Why would we have them? They got to do something, and so it's like they didn't know what to do with the characters, so they just sort of had them like I'll just pretend I'm a character in a cartoon right now. Like this is how they'll talk. They'll say like this is what I'm doing, and they just sort of like float over here and then float back over here, and like all of that. It's a lot of weird stuff. A lot of cartoons did that. I think they did it again. They were trying to recreate the feeling of cinematic animation, which spoiled everybody because when you're doing cinematic animation, you have a lot of money to throw around, and there's a lot of movement happening and a big budget production. But when you're doing TV, you don't really have that. You got to cut a lot of corners. So how do you make it feel like a Disney movie Well, you have the character just kind of moving around a lot. So that's my theory. I haven't spoken to anybody. I don't think I have. Maybe I've heard this somewhere before, but Chillin says for same unnecessary repeated movement, the savings on heavier shots not always worth it. For same unnecessary repeated movement, yeah, with the savings on heavier shots, right? Yeah, I guess it's all something you have to it's something you have to determine for yourself. Where's the value, right? Hey, Dan is here. Dan, everybody. Dan Sandoval is one of my voice actors from this very cartoon that I'm about to start working on, because I've just went on a crazy big animation rant with y'all. Thank you for letting me go and do all that. That was fun. But Dan's one of the voices. He's actually the main character from this here cartoon. He has the most lines out of anybody, and the story is actually about the character that he plays. So he actually technically is the main character. So thank you so much for being here tonight, Dan. Much appreciated. And you did a great job, and it's fun. It's fun to animate to your voice. I've animated 2 or 3 lines, I think, to your voice so far, which is cool. I actually went back today, Dan, and I for myself listened to a little bit of the first, I think it was the first phone call we ever had, and it was like a video call, and you were in your car, and I have that recorded. And I just played a little bit of back of it today, and we were talking about, like, you were asking me, will you be doing the lines to mouth flaps that already exist when they dub anime? And I said, no, I'm going to be drawing what I'm drawing based off of your speech patterns and the way that you do the lines. And so that was like a cool little conversation. And I said, so make sure you enunciate, because it helps me form the words better. I'm like, I didn't realize I said that to you. I forgot that we had that conversation. But anyway, I'm glad I keep recordings like that, because it's a way to kind of look back and see how things started out. Big rants are the best rants, says Samantha Roby. Yes, they are. Yes, you missed the rant. You missed the rant, Dan, but you can always go back and watch the beginning of this video if you like. It's going to be available as soon as I'm done recording. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Facebook. Either way. So I'm going to get started here, put on some music. And if you guys feel like asking me questions while I'm working, you are totally welcome to do that. I'll try to get to everyone's questions in due time. I would encourage you to check out the 30-second commercial that I just put up today. It's a lot of fun. And without further nonsense from me, I'm going to go ahead and, not that any of this was nonsense. This was all animation talk. This was good stuff. I kind of felt like I was teaching a class for 2 seconds. That was kind of cool. But you were woohooing about my part and not missing the rant. I love a good rant. Yeah, well, I'm excited about the work that you've done as well. Like I said, it's been fun to animate to your voice, sir. It's been fun. That was a short song. Since I'm at the kind of the beginnings of a new scene, I'm just sort of setting up my staging elements right now, which means like the key points in the dialogue that I know I want to stand out as moments that are like key moments for me to work to. They're referred to as key frames. I'm just sort of like staging those out very loosely right now. And then later, what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll scan these and I'll align them with the audio. And it should give me like a good idea of if I'm hitting the beats the way that I want to hit the beats. And I'm only going to do these really, really loosely and not get too precious with any of it, because I don't know if it's going to do what I want it to do, and I may need to go back and like erase it and do something different. So right now, tonight, I'm not doing any in-betweens. I know last week I was doing in-betweens, and I was hoping to get to a place with this scene this week where I would be doing in-betweens. I prefer to have in-betweens to work on when I'm doing a live draw, because I can kind of zone out a little bit and talk to you guys and not have to think too much. And unfortunately, I didn't get far enough in this new scene to where I could to get going to where in betweening would happen. Unfortunately, so the good news is, yay for completing a scene earlier this week. The bad news is, well, not really the bad news, but the reality is now that I'm doing a new scene, I'm sort of kind of in the stage where I have to do a lot of thinking and figuring out at staging everything. Um, Kind of the way that I guess a director would stage a scene for theater, and that's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm just sort of staging my characters during key moments of the dialogue, so that later I can play it back and say, yeah, that's where those are the beats I want everybody to hit. That seems appropriate. And then I go back in and start making more like permanent decisions. Dan, talking without my awareness. I will have to get an autographed print someday. Oh, well, that's very kind of you, sir. Blocking. Oh, yes, I'm doing blocking. I was like, are you blocking me after you said you want an autographed print? That didn't last long. Blocking you. Yeah, I've got prints. I've got numerous prints from Retail Sunshine that are already made. I still have a handful of the 10-year anniversary prints that I made back in 2018. Yeah, back in 2018. So I have prints that are 5 years old now. Shut up and take my money. That needs to be the title of like a, what are those videos people are doing now where they're selling stuff live? They're almost doing like a QVC thing. Does anybody remember QVC? Am I dating myself there with referring to that? But they're kind of doing that now. There's people doing these like live events where they're just like recording themselves selling stuff, right? Dan says, I'm geeking out about Futurama coming back this month. Absolutely. How many comebacks is that for Futurama? They went off the air. They came back in the form of like 5 direct-to-video movies. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. Then they went away again. Then they came back again with a revival series run, which lasted, I don't know, a season or 2. Then they went away again. And now they're coming back again for another series run. Is that right? Number 5? What do you mean number 5? This is their 5th comeback? That doesn't make any sense. How are you counting the comebacks? Dan saying, we're back, baby. We're back, baby. left leg. They got canceled and picked up for reruns on Comedy Central or Adult Swim. Yeah, that's right. The mini movies, then back again, then canceled again, then back again, not counting the Simpsons crossover. Still hoping for a Rick and Morty crossover. That would be interesting. For the sci-fi of it all, I think. That would be interesting. I gotta say, those direct-to-video movies, I was not a fan. I think there was maybe one of the 5 that I thought was even worth your time in watching them. The rest of them kind of felt like, what are we doing? So, sorry to say, it just didn't have the same energy as the show. It just did not. For whatever reason. I'm going to try this. See if I can get, like, maybe. I want to point out something. A lot of the things I was talking about earlier are animation principles the way that I understand them to be. I haven't taught animation myself, and I think one of the reasons why I think animation is so interesting is there's a number of ways to do it. You can, I mean, there are some things that you can't mess around with too much or else it won't work, but there's a lot of different styles and a lot of different ways people do things. Just like drawing, there's different ways people draw. So, by all means, if I say something that sounds like it's not correct, I'm just speaking from my own experiences and the way that I'm doing it. And I'm also formulating I'm formulating the way that I do this. Since I've kind of jumped back into animation in 2020, 2019 maybe, but since I've kind of relatively new to getting back into it, I'm still figuring out the way that I do things. So if you're somebody watching this and you're like, well, that doesn't sound right, well, it might not be right for you, but it's the way that I do things. So maybe in time I'll find better ways to do the things that I do. I imagine I will. I imagine doing anything repetitively will pretty much always result in that kind of a thing. So Dan says the D&D one was the best. Yeah, I agree. For the Futurama movies, that was the best one. I agree. I think they had different writers. Maybe a Disenchantment crossover is out there too. Who knows? Boy, that's a show that's super hard for me to put my finger on. Disenchantment. Boy, that's like a whole nother conversation right there. Different strokes. Pun 100% intended. Haha. I see what you did there. Haha. Something about this song reminds me of Cowboy Bebop, which is a good thing. If I could play the music of Cowboy Bebop and not get in trouble for it, I would do it. Thanks for joining me tonight. Those of you that are watching me live, I really appreciate that. If you are watching me on the rewind, hello to you too. You're absolutely welcome and appreciated for being here, so thank you for that. I guess I'll take this time to point out, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel on YouTube, please do that and like this video there, because it makes a huge difference whether or not people actually see the video. Believe it or not, it's a huge deal. So head over to YouTube and search my name and find this video and give it a thumbs up. It might sound like the silliest of requests, but it really does help. So thank you for that. Because then YouTube's like, oh, people like watching this? Oh, all right. I guess we should probably like recommend it then. That's how their software is set up. Last I checked. So let's tell their software that people should be hanging out here. Because honestly, if we can get a crowd of like 20 or more people in here at any given point in time, I think conversation wise, that would be really, really fun. I wouldn't get a lot of drawing done, I don't think, but I'm game for conversation as well. Fun fact: the term pun goes back as far as the mid 1600s. Well, that is a fun fact. I think that's literally the definition of a fun fact. Dan, thank you for that. That was a fact that I found fun. I have no way of verifying this fact, so I really can't confirm that it is a fact. But I can confirm that it was fun, and I appreciate your providing of that. I switched to a harder lead recently, and the bad news is it's hard for me to see what I'm drawing. The good news is the, the the markings are very, very light, so I can erase them easily. And when I go back to draw over them later, when it comes time to like finalize the images, um, it's going to make it so that the lines I'm making right now can be very easily covered up. So there's trade-offs, and right now the trade-off is I can barely see what I'm drawing. That's the bad part of it. It's making me have to work a little bit harder to see what I'm doing. So actually, that's part of my speed issues tonight. Is I'm getting used to a different hardness on my graphite. Um, it has me wondering if I made the right choice, actually. But I'm going to try to give it a chance because I have an entire box of these pencils. And so now I have to. I don't want to like not use them. They were a gift for my birthday from a dear friend. And I actually was kind of wondering if I should switch to something that would be more easily covered up or erased later. I was kind of already considering doing that, and then these pencils came into my life, and I said, okay, well there they are, and now I'm trying to make use of them, and so it's just a little bit of getting used to. So in this sequence, I've got two characters, and one of them is sort of taking the lead as far as his dialogue is going. So for a period of time, my main character, I'm going to probably have him stationary and not reacting to anything just for a little while. I'm going to kind of go back and forth between him being stationary and then him having his own movements. I think that's a really good way to utilize a character being stationary, is if they're stationary for like short periods of time and then they move, and you just kind of do it where it's appropriate. And again, this is me figuring it out as I go. Samantha Roby says, hard lead, bad, soft lead, good. Well, here's the thing, though. Again, this is also very easily erased and also very easily covered up when I take my black graphite eventually and go back over the drawings and make the drawings more permanent. When I do that, you won't even be able to see the lines I'm doing right now. They won't even appear. So, which will make cleanup a lot easier on the back end. It's all a trade-off. Do you go for speed up front or do you go for speed on the back? I'm trying different techniques. I wanted to wait until the previous scene was done. I didn't want to switch mid-scene. So since I'm doing a new scene, that's when I was like, time for new pencils and see how this works. It also means I'll be sharpening these a lot less frequently, which should mean that they'll last me a lot longer. Again, there's more pros than there are cons. The only con I'm actually noticing right now is that it's really, really difficult for me to see what I'm drawing. That's the only con. It's a pretty big con, but it's the only con I can really see. So here's an example of thank you, Dan. Dan's on YouTube now. Is there a medium lead that is just right? I haven't really found that yet. However, I do have this wonderful set of pencils that I haven't even broken in. Well, I used them once, but I really haven't done much with them. And these are Tombow mono drawing pencils. They're supposed to be very, very good, and they're, I guess, from Japan. And there's a bunch of pencils in there. You may be wondering, are those all the same pencil? And the answer to that is no. They are all different hardnesses. So I bought this set with the express intention of figuring out if there's a perfect graphite hardness. And so if I do figure that out, I'll let you know. But like, this is the one I was just working on right now. This is the image I was working on right now. So you'll notice this is Spike. You'll notice Spike doesn't have any hair. Hair is a detail that I'm going to add, like, once I know this is the drawing that I want to use. I'm just staging this out right now. And you'll also notice that Spike is standing alone and doesn't have New Guy next to him. And that is because I'm going to try and have New Guy not have any movement for the first few frames of this scene. And then once Spike does an action, I'm going to have New Guy react to that action. And then I'll have him probably stay motionless for a little while after that. So Spike's going to be the one doing all the acting in this one, and then New Guy is going to have like a tiny bit of reaction, all nonverbal, and then Spike is going to be walking off screen. There's a very good chance I will be working on this scene next week during the live draw. So I guess just keep this in your memory banks. The scene I started tonight, I started it like a day or two ago, but I'm still at the very beginning stages of it. So I'm only 4 drawings kind of into that scene. My other drawing that I did earlier was just me kind of staging stuff. This is just like a very basic staging situation here. Um, so I'll be scanning these drawings in and kind of seeing how they work out with the dialogue and see if they match the way that I want them to. And then what I'll do is I'll pick some key moments where I know that during these particular parts of speech, I want there to be a very specific look or action happening. And those are the ones that I will then focus more attention on and then build outward from those key frames from there. If we look at my storyboard, to bring it back to the storyboard, I know it's an hour. I know I've hit the hour, but I'm just going to kind of like wrap this up a little bit with a little bit of storyboard conversation. So this is my board for this scene, this bottom section right here. I'm doing it a little bit differently than I did it in the boards, but basically Spike is there and New Guy is there, and Spike says his thing, and then he like walks off, and then the camera does like a pan, and then we see another character off there in the distance, and he is talking with New Guy. So this is going to be a pretty complicated little scene. Probably going to be at least 5 seconds long, if not more than that. No, I'm not trying to get scenes to be a specific length, but I have noticed that it seems to be pretty common for scenes to be in the 2 to 3 second mark, and if you get in the 5 second mark and higher, those are the more elaborate scenes. So again, these are all things that I'm kind of learning as I go. Thanks for being with me here tonight. As a reminder, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube. It means a lot. Comment on there, give it a thumbs up, watch some of the other videos, all that good stuff. And then if you haven't already, please consider becoming a patron. If you are not interested in monetarily being a patron, that's okay. You can still go to Patreon and follow for free. And you can also get a 1 week trial to Patreon for free. They just started doing that earlier this year, and I did enable my page for 1 week trials. So if you'd like to do a 1 week trial, you are more than welcome to do that. Thanks for being with me here tonight. Maybe I'll have a little bit more drawing going on next week. Today I was waxing poetic about animation and also just kind of starting a new scene. So thank you for bearing with me, and hopefully it was entertaining, and I will see you all next Friday. Have a great weekend.